So a terrible situation there in Bangladesh as well, involving the fate of the minorities. They're a mere 8% in that country. Veena Sikri, former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, joins us now. Ms. Sikri, what do you make of the situation in Bangladesh? Do you think that now it seems that all limits seem to be being crossed as far as atrocities against minorities are concerned?
Yes, truly, you're absolutely right, because I think the situation which began to deteriorate rapidly beginning on 5th August, the day that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country, it has really gone rapidly downhill now in the last 2 weeks. And we've seen in the last few days that absolutely peaceful meetings led by Chinmo Krishna Brahmachari Prabhu, who is also heading the Bangladesh Samilita Sanatani Jagran Jyot. He held these meetings at the request of the Hindu community, and he really was making a very peaceful request. They have an 8-point demand to the government of Bangladesh, which is to have a separate law for the protection of minority, a separate ministry for the protection of minorities, telling them to take action against all the perpetrators who have committed acts of absolute atrocities against the Hindu minorities and Buddhist minorities beginning 5th of August and continuing up till today. And he's also, requested that urgent action be taken against those.
But instead of listening to those demands, the kitchen sink seems to have been thrown by the Bangladeshi government at this religious leader.
Yes, exactly. Now, what has happened is that the meetings he was leading were being prevented from being held. The latest one in Rangpur over the weekend, the permission was denied, and the meeting was eventually held 5 kilometers outside the city. Even then, thousands of people came. Now, despite all that, there was attack on the meetings. People got hurt, and instead of helping the people who had been hurt, they have arrested the leader of the meeting and charged him with sedition. And of course, it has caused a tremendous amount of outrage, because then he was taken to Chittagong for the hearing. And today in Chittagong, as you're showing in the visuals, the Hindu community collected at the courts. And in the courts, there was such a hullabaloo. The police thrashed the Hindu community. And in the melee, I think a Muslim lawyer died. And that also is being blamed on the Hindu community, whereas they've clearly said they had nothing to do with it. And I must tell you that Indian government is extremely upset, and they've issued a notice saying, saying they're extremely concerned and calling for the rights of the Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh, and saying how this is a really causing deep concern to us. And now the government of Bangladesh a few minutes ago has put out a note of its own and called this a matter of the internal matter of Bangladesh, and saying that the people of Bangladesh enjoy complete communal harmony. I mean, this is absolutely, it couldn't be further from the truth, because we do know, and everybody knows, the world community knows, our Prime Minister has spoken about it with Professor Muhammad Yunus. Our Prime Minister has spoken about it from the ramparts of Red Fort on 15th August. He has spoken about it with President Biden. We know that President-elect Trump, he has issued such a strong note on this subject, talking about the chaos in Bangladesh, talking about the attacks, barbaric attacks on the minorities in Bangladesh. And after all this, the Bangladesh government's note put out this evening, a few minutes ago, says that there is complete communal harmony and there is no problem, and that Chinmo Prabhu has been arrested on specific charges. And to actually add salt to the wounds, we have a statement directly from Professor Muhammad Yunus, who has expressed concern only about the killing of the Muslim lawyer. He has not expressed concern about anything else. And
why do you think is the Bangladeshi government and Professor Yunus, who's a Nobel laureate, Nobel Peace Laureate, after coming into this sort of position, why is the government and he living in this sort of a parallel universe?
I think it is just because I think Professor Muhammad Yunus does not seem to be in control of the situation in Bangladesh. He really does not seem to have maybe not even the direct knowledge of what is happening in Bangladesh.
But then he should quit.
He's really being controlled by the Jamaat-e-Islami. It is the ultra-conservative Jamaat-e-Islami and even the Hizb ut-Tahrir. These Islamist groups are actually controlling what the Professor Muhammad Yunus is doing. And this is a matter of great concern, because, Professor Muhammad Yunus has a great global reputation, etc., and he would have been expected to bring the situation under control. And in the early days, he did express concern about what was happening in
But
Bangladesh.
isn't he conscious of the fact that if the situation lingers on, more and more people keep being oppressed and people die? In Bangladesh, his own reputation, which he has built assiduously over the years, over decades, will be completely besmirched.
Absolutely, I think he should be very concerned about that. And today, what he has done by just expressing concern about the death of the Muslim lawyer is more telling than anything else about his concern for the minorities in Bangladesh. And I think that this is a matter which seems to be going from bad to worse every day, because we've had people in West Bengal talking about it. The Ramakrishna Mission and the ISKCON are the two organizations in Bangladesh who have been completely selfless for more than 50 years, right from 1971 and before that, but certainly during the Liberation War in 1971. These were the two organizations, the Ramakrishna Mission and the ISKCON, which helped each and every individual, regardless of race or religion or community. They gave them food, they gave them shelter, they gave them clothes, and they were the ones, at the forefront of bringing about, a secular democratic Bangladesh. And now these very institutions are being completely attacked, and they are being, accused of all kinds of incorrect accusations, and the attacks on the Hindu minorities, the attacks in Khagrachari, the attacks in Chittagong, the attacks at the temple. This is not being referred to at all. And I think what is happening, as you can see from the visuals you are showing, that all the participants in these demonstrations are the young people. These are the young Hindus, the young Buddhists, the young Christians. These are the members of the younger generation of the minorities. And these are the ones who have said that we have taken a stand. We want to stay here. This is our country. We want our rights. So this is when you see in all these visuals how it is the younger generation that has taken a stand. Maybe
Yes.
the older generation would have upped and left by now, but this younger generation is taking a stand.
Ms.
And
Sikri,
maybe irking them. Yeah.
Ms. Sikri, where does this leave India and Bangladesh relations? We're neighbors, we've had enjoyed good relations over at least the last 10 years, if not more. We've had a situation where Sheikh Hasina is now in our country. She had to leave her country very suddenly because of the kind of situation that developed there, that people were marching to her home, and had she stayed there, God knows what her fate would have been. So where does this sort of situation now leave India and Bangladesh relations?
Well, I think the strain is evident now, because I think from the very beginning, Government of India has said that we are prepared to deal with the interim government, we are prepared to talk to them, we attach the highest importance to India-Bangladesh relations. And in keeping with this statement that the Government of India had made right in the very beginning, we have had a very moderate, even keel approach to all the incidents in Bangladesh. Certainly, as far as the Hindu minorities and the Buddhist minorities and the Christian minorities are concerned, we have expressed ourselves unequivocally, and I think this was recognized by all concerned. We've seen even President-elect Trump making such a strong statement. But what has happened now in the last 2 days, in the last 48 hours, with the meeting in Rangapur being attacked, and then the leader being arrested on charges of sedition, and then today in the Chittagong court, his supporters who came to meet him, they were thrashed by the police, and many were injured. And it's just that one Muslim lawyer, the Hindus are being blamed that he was killed because of their attack, but all the Hindu groups, even in Calcutta, even in West Bengal, even in Bangladesh, they've all said we had nothing to do with it. And but this has become the one issue, and CA in his statement only speaks about this one person, not about all the distress and all the losses and all the terrible things that have been happening to the minorities in Bangladesh for the last 3 months. There's not a reference to that at all. So I do think that it will give great pause to the Government of India to think about how to tackle the situation. And
right, I wanted to ask you about that, because so far the Indian government has issued advisories and statements, very stern ones. But are there more tools at the Indian government's disposal to ensure that Bangladesh listens? Apart from, there's of course President Trump, once he comes to office, would have his own means of persuasion.
Yes, I think that, very in keeping with the interests of maintaining India-Bangladesh relations on an even keel. Even some discussions have been organized. Consultations are possibly being arranged between India and Bangladesh. But the events of the last 48 hours, the note put out by our government earlier today and the reply by the Bangladesh government later, just now, a few minutes ago, these have certainly, been very difficult because the response of the Bangladesh government has been absolutely unbelievable. That they do not want to recognize, that the world recognizes what has been happening to the minorities in Bangladesh over the last 3 months. It's not India who is saying this, the world is saying it. We've seen how in America, the Indian Americans and the Bangladesh Americans, they've been gathered over the weekend in the hundreds and have called this out and said, look what is happening. The Islamists in Bangladesh are, are hurting the interests of the minority communities. All this is happening the world over, but the government of Bangladesh, the interim government, seems to be totally living in an unreal world because their note verbal put out a few minutes ago does not at all recognize that anything has happened, and they're talking about complete communal harmony. Nothing is happening.
Yes.
These own reasons are own, and they're charging the Chinmo Prabhu with sedition. Which is an absolute unheard of charge. Even I think under Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, I don't think there was a single case where there was a sedition charge.
Yes.
And
is there more that can be done?
I think that this has to be brought to the attention of the world in a much bigger way. And I think that this is happening. And I would like to say that combined with the attack on the minorities in Bangladesh is the attack on the journalists, on the media. And I think this is something also that we must take cognizance of, because the international community has put out today some detailed stories about how it has never been seen that even in the last 3 months, hundreds of journalists have been removed from their jobs, have been taken away, have been fired, have been put in jail, have been charged with murder. Even the most senior
Indeed.
and journalists, and even Pratham Alu and Daily Star have been girawed, and it's an unreal situation. It's completely out of control, and it's really a very worrisome situation. It's almost like a kind of a clash within Bangladesh between different groups and personality, like a civil war situation being built up.
Yes, extremely concerning situation right now in Bangladesh. We'll have to wait and see if the situation improves, although it is not showing any signs from any end, particularly the Bangladeshi government, of improving. One can only hope that it does. But for the moment, thank you for joining us, Veena Sikri.